Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to the special town board meeting tonight, April 6th at 7 o'clock, being held through our first, I guess, video teleconference with Zoom. Did I get that right, Jack?
Yes.
Okay. I guess we'd like to start with the pledge to the flag. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for
which
which
stands
stands
one
one
nation,
nation,
God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty.
and justice for all.
Okay, at this time, before we start the meeting, I'd like to take a moment to pass along the board's sincere condolences to the family of our town employee, Tom Chaffone. Tom, known to many of us affectionately as Tucker or Tuck, he was a general foreman with our highway department. His work ethic and knowledge of our infrastructure was invaluable. He'll be sorely missed. He fought a long and valiant battle. He is the husband of our Assistant Superintendent of Recreation, Christian Chaffone. He was a fantastic husband, father, and friend. May we please have a moment of silence for Tucker and all those who have passed on as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you. Okay, at our last town board meeting that we had, due to the fact that we had some issues with our telephone and open communications, we did not have an executive session. So we can do an executive session now, or we can continue with the meeting and have an executive session at the end.
Well, I think given the numbers of people that are on the call expecting to hear our public session, I think we should wait for executive session to the end of all the public business.
That's what I was going to suggest.
Great, thank you.
Okay. At this time, I would just like to give the
Fred, before you start, Jackie should do a roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. So we're Councilman Dionisio,
Here.
Councilwoman Leader,
Here,
Councilman Gordon,
Here.
and then Deputy Supervisor Fred Ciliano.
Here.
Fred, it's Jonathan. Before you start, can I just go over a couple things?
Sure.
So under the governor's directives, we're able to have this meeting virtually. As a result, there are different requirements. One of them is that there be a verbatim transcript produced from this meeting. In order for that to happen in an orderly fashion, and as it is, that's an additional expense to the meeting, it will be important, Fred, because the court reporter will be working off of an audio file rather than knowing who everyone on this call is. So it will be helpful that, Fred, if you identify each speaker before they speak by name, and each of us to help Fred, if he forgets per se to give your full name when you start up, you certainly can say, this is Jonathan Crowder, or obviously whatever your name is. And with that, I'm going to mute mine. I see that there's 2 or 3 open mics. Rich, yours is one of them. So let's just try and mute him until we're talking. And Fred, it's yours.
Okay. At this point, I would like to take the time to update our residents of the town's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. I hope all our residents and merchants are safe and in good health. This is not an easy time for any of us. As many of you know, Mayor Belmont has had surgery and has been ordered by his doctor to recuperate at home. To the extent possible, I have kept him abreast of what I'm about to tell you here tonight. As we see and anticipate, more residents are testing positive for COVID-19. And then those who have tested positive already and are well enough, we ask you to please inform you or your neighbors of your condition and people who you've been in contact with recently. This may be uncomfortable for some, but it is imperative that we intend to stop the spread of this terrible and life-threatening virus. Social distancing is the key to the solution of spreading this virus. Please maintain all social distancing. On March 12th, I declared a state of emergency for the town of Harrison. Each day since I declared the state of emergency, the town clerk has continuously updated our website, www.harrison-newyork.gov. I've been providing our residents with robocalls every evening since March 13th at approximately 7 p.m. If you're not receiving these daily robocalls or emails, please call Jackie Greer, our town clerk, at 670-3030 or jgreer@harrison-ny.gov. I've been in almost daily contact with all our department heads since I called for the state of emergency over 3 weeks ago. I have been in contact with county government and participate in a teleconference with the county executive every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. All town supervisors, mayor of cities for all our town villages in the county participate. Our town board has met twice, once for a scheduled town board meeting and the other time for a status update. Tonight will be our third meeting in a little more than 3 weeks. As you are about to learn, almost all the services of our residents typically receive are still most in part continuing. To limit the possibility that Town Hall might be a disease transmission location, the Harrison Municipal Building has been closed and will continue to be closed to the general public until further notice. The town will attempt to continue to provide essential services to its residents. All non-essential employees are working remotely to the extent practical. Town employees, of course, face the same issues as we all do during this demanding period. And I know we are grateful for their dedication. With a view to protecting our employees and the public for whom they come in contact with, we have implemented a variety of measures. The following is a summary of our municipal services. The town clerk's office. Jackie and her staff have been working in the office and in remotely for the state of emergencies. Jackie has extended her hours from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week. Disabled, handicap parking permits, Harrison commuter parking, and resident parking permits, dog licensing services can be provided to residents through mail or email. The town clerk is also constantly updating the town website with the latest and most confirmed information. She is constantly updating Harrison's cable channel. You will find the town channel on FiOS 1960 or Optimum Channel 75. The clerk has established a Facebook group titled Town/Village of Harrison. It contains the exact state of emergency information found on the town website. Please have your family, friends, and neighbors sign up for our email newsletters and enroll in the robocall program. You can contact Jackie at 670-3030. Our community services. The office is taking phone inquiries and emails and is assisting residents at the food pantry by appointment only. Contact Nina Maricini at 670-3026. The Harrison Food Bank is available by appointment. Monetary donations are needed to assist those in need. They can be mailed to the Community Service Department at the Townhouse. Our Building Department and Fire Prevention Department are continuing to accept, review, and issue permits. Phones are being answered both in the office and remotely. All applications are to be mailed and can be found on the town website. Inspections will continue to be conducted, but only outdoors or in unoccupied spaces for essential construction work allowed by the governor's executive order. New York State directives have stopped all non-essential construction. Our building inspectors are working with contractors to close their work sites as soon as possible. Some construction activities may be taking place, but only to ensure the safety of their project and neighboring buildings. There are also a number of exemptions placed by this New York State directive. Please call our building department for further information. We regret this hardship to all our residents and businesses. Our controller and purchasing department are working all remotely. I instructed the controller to complete the town's 2019 year-end audit. The controller has worked digitally over the last 2.5 weeks and through the past weekend to gather data and information regarding the various revenue streams that were budgeted. This will enable the board to now discuss our current financial status and estimate the long-range effects the pandemic will have on our financial status. The controller will be speaking in a bit to update the board and the public. Our Department of Public Works. The office is staffed and providing the following services. Garbage and recycling pickups have been reduced to once a week by the Sanitation Division. If your garbage is picked up normally on Monday and Thursday, it will be picked up on Monday. If your garbage is picked up Tuesdays and Fridays, it will be picked up on Tuesdays only. If your recyclables are picked up on Monday or Tuesday, they will be picked up on Monday only. And if your recyclables are picked up on Thursday and Friday, they will be picked up on Tuesday only. There is no bulk trash, metal, or electronic pickups, and no weekly brown bag organic collection during this time. We will, though, pick up brush and organics during the last week of each month. Our highway division is limited to 50% of its staff, and at the time they are working only on critical responses. The Parks and General Town Buildings and Grounds Division, as well as the central garage, are reduced by 50%. They will continue to provide building maintenance and disinfection, as well as vehicle maintenance for all our equipment. An important reminder from our DPW commissioner. During this time, we ask residents to please refrain from putting paper towels, rubber gloves, and disinfectant wipes down your toilet. These will cause sewage blockages. I want to commend our residents for adjusting to this service disruption with our sanitation schedule. I thank all of you for adhering to the rules established for the safety of our employees. Thank you for your patience and also for the many kind words for our workers. Our receiver of taxes. He has announced tax payments for the Westchester County tax bills have been made and are due April 30th. Checks can be mailed to the receiver of taxes, 1 Hyndman Place, Harrison, New York, 10528. Another option for payment is on the town website. For any questions regarding your tax bills and payments, contact Receiver of Taxes Mike Giordano at 670-3040. We will have a discussion later on proposed county legislation that is being considered by them in connection with county taxes. Our Recreation Department. Senior citizens and recreation buildings are remain closed, as well as our parks and ball fields. However, they are continuing to service the senior citizens with medical and grocery transport. Our senior lunch program is currently ongoing, and the program now delivers the lunches to each senior's residence. You can reach out to our Recreation Department via phone or email. Our assessor's office continues to run on a regular schedule. They can accept and process exemptions, process deeds, permits, and certificates of occupancy. They can assist you, through phone or email. A special note to our senior citizens. If you are renewing senior applications with the assessor's office, you should be looking for a letter in the mail, and many of you have received them at this time. Please give the assessor's office a call if you have any questions or need help. Our engineering department, they're able to field questions and inquiries and accept applications via email and properly attached PDF documentation. The engineering department may not be able to process a current application previously submitted. You may need now to send a PDF submission via email. Some applications requiring signature may not be able to be processed in a timely manner during this period. Site meetings and inspections may not be viable during the state of emergency. To contact the engineering department, email engineering@harrison-newyork.gov. Our IT department. Mike has been doing a fantastic job helping us tonight with a new form of meeting, as well as keeping all our staff who are working remotely working. The Harrison Public Library has a great selection of ebooks, audiobooks, films, and TV shows for all to access and enjoy. Virtual library programming and events for the entire family can be found on the library's website. The Harrison Police Department is closed to the public. Police are accepting and processing requests for accidents and incident reports. They are doing a superb job. They are focusing on patrol activities and medical aid requests. All patrol posts and shifts have been fully staffed by our dedicated officers. I have consulted with our police chief on the town village 24-hour parking restriction and time limits on our roads. They have been relaxed until further notice. Please limit the length of stay in our business district so residents can pull up in and out quickly to pick up food from our merchants and other necessities. Our police department is warning our residents of possible telephone scams relating to the COVID-19 virus. Law enforcement became aware of a robocall stating that a company could mail you a COVID-19 test kit if you provide your Social Security number. The county health department confirmed that there are no FDA-approved COVID-19 tests available through the mail. Chief Asta would like to remind our citizens, especially our seniors, to be cautious and not to provide your Social Security number for any mail order of a COVID-19 test, as well as providing your Social Security number to anyone over the phone. You can report such fraud to the Harrison Police Department at 967-5111. Our fire departments are staffed at normal levels. I have been in contact with our fire chiefs, and they have reported business as usual. I want to commend and thank our firefighters, both volunteer and professional staff, for continuing to serve our residents during this critical time. Our Harrison Emergency Medical Service is continuing to operate at normal levels and response times. All precautions have been taken to ensure compliance with medical protocols. If you need to call for emergency service from the police department, fire department, or EMS, and if you are in self-quarantined, quarantined, or other believe you are at high risk of COVID-19 exposure, please explain this when you call. This will allow emergency personnel to take appropriate precautionary measures when responding. Our town court, pursuant to the directives of the Chief Administrative Judge of the State of New York, all essential criminal functions of the court have been consolidated to a special part at Supreme Court, and all other functions of this court have been deemed non-essential. As such, the Harrison Town Court is closed until further notice. There are no employees in the office, no phone calls are being taken, no emails are being accepted, no faxes are being acknowledged. There are no financial transactions. Postal mail will not be opened and processed until further notice. This closure is tentatively scheduled to last until Monday, May 4th, 2020, subject to further guidance and directives from the New York State Office of Court Administration. If you have previously received written correspondence from this court directing you to appear in Harrison for a criminal case, an eviction, small claims case, town ordinance, building code, or pretrial conference in connection with a traffic matter, you will be notified by the court via mail as to your rescheduled appearance. If you have a scheduled appearance or were otherwise directed to attend court, you will not be penalized for your absence. If you have received a notice of driver license or privilege suspension, New York State Motor Vehicles, and your effective date of suspension is prior to May 5th, 2020, DMV is working on automatically stopping the suspension from going into effect now that the court is closed. If, however, your license or privileged to operate a motor vehicle in the state of New York went into suspension prior to March 17th, and if that suspension is for failing to pay or answer a ticket returnable to this court, you will not be able to resolve this matter until the court reopens. Please continue to check the court's website, www.harrisoncourt.com, for the latest information about the court's closure and updates when it will reopen. The Harrison School District launched a child care program for our child care for essential healthcare workers and our first responders on Wednesday, March 25th. The Harrison School District is providing child care for students ages 5 through 12 each weekday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Harrison Avenue Elementary School. The Harrison Children's Center is providing child care for children ages 3 to 4 and after-hour supervision from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. each weekday afternoon. This program provides adult supervision, help with distance learning assignments, organized activities, and recreation for registered students. There are families who have registered for the child care program for ages 3 through 12. Harrison residents of essential healthcare workers and first responders that need child care are encouraged to register on the school website. To all our local businesses and merchants, the town is working in cooperation with the Chamber of Commerce to assist you in your time of need. There are various SBA loans for all businesses under 500 employees that Congress just passed with a $2 trillion stimulus package, and I hope all impacted businesses take advantage. Some of the loans come with a forgiveness component, and the Chamber of Commerce will work with you because the paperwork, I understand, is very difficult. Finally, as you can see, my first priority as deputy mayor has been to coordinate between department heads, devote our efforts to protecting our residents' health and safety, to provide for sanitary efficiencies, revisit and in some cases create from the ground up contingency plans, and maintain vital services. I am the senior member of the board, having served since 2008. I have been through several natural disasters that include major flooding and hurricanes. None of us has ever faced anything like this. With God's good grace, we will all see this come to a good conclusion. Thank you. At this time, I guess we'll move to a discussion with our recreation superintendent, Jerry Salvo, on camp during this crisis.
Fred, before we get into detailed business, I have a feeling the other board members would also like to make a statement or say something about the current state. You can do that whenever you want, but just want to make sure we all get a chance to
Sure.
say something. Let's
finish the agenda. There's a couple of things, and then I'll call on each of you to do that.
Again, I know it's hard to do. This is Jonathan Kraut. That was Ms. Leader. That
Jonathan, it's all being recorded. It's all being recorded, so.
correct, but not with the name. No, not with the name. So what we're asking is that you state your name unless Fred identifies you before you speak. Thank you.
Okay.
Lauren,
so-
I think you were at it when, this is Jackie Greer, when Jonathan mentioned that we need to have a transcript of it.
Yeah, no, I heard him, but it's also
Oh.
recorded on Facebook, but however you guys want to do it.
Right, but the person doing the transcript doesn't know our names.
Okay. So I'd like to introduce Jerry Salvo, our superintendent of recreation, to speak about camp going forward. I know a few of the board members had some questions. So Jerry Salvo, would you please come
Thank
to
you.
the mic?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Very good. So as of right now, we are planning for camp. We're planning for the pools. Obviously, we have to get our direction from the county health department. They actually just sent, I got it today, applications for camp. So they're trying their process. So we're going to continue planning for it. And obviously, it all depends on what the county brings down, and we're going to go with that.
Okay.
This is Councilwoman Leader. Jerry, we've had a lot of questions from families about financial aid for camp, assuming that it goes forward. Obviously, there are a lot of families in town that are now unemployed, that are struggling financially, certainly more than in the past, as is true for families across America. I think it would be helpful to the families listening to have a sense of what our process is for applying if families need financial support to participate in camp, what's available. We obviously as a board need to review the funds as part of our audit, but could you speak to that?
Okay, so currently, probably for the last 15 years or so, we do have, which is not a scholarship or discount, we do a payment plan through my office for camp. Also, because our day camp is childcare, people in need can go through social services and apply through there. And we had that in the past. Those are the two items we have now. Scholarships right now through the town we do not have. Obviously, this is different times, so that's something the board and we do have to discuss that and see what we can do about that. But that is a good idea.
Thanks, Jerry. I just wanted to, this is Lauren, apologize to everybody for why I will be coming in and out. I'm actually in the hospital with my daughter and she's awake right now and asking for things. So please don't be offended to the folks listening that I keep stepping away because she's like yelling for me. I'm listening and I'm going to be in and out. Thanks.
Thank you, and we wish the best to your daughter, Lauren. Item number 3, the proposed county legislation in connection with the county taxes due by April 30th. I know this is a moving target. We received some documentation today from the County of Westchester where they're going to be holding a public hearing. And I don't believe at this point we can really move on anything. Mike, do you want to comment on this, or one of the attorneys, until we see the final legislation?
Yeah, Fred, it's Frank Allegretti. Yeah, I could comment on this. There's been a few different, I think, measures that have been floated around. The first one, I think, came around last week, I think around Wednesday or Thursday, from George Latimer's office, the county executive. That proposal had a few things in it. One was an extension of the county tax deadline from the April tax that's now due by April 30th without penalty, and extending the deadline until July 15th of this year. We collect the taxes for the county, and it's paid once per year, which is now it's a full payment that's due in April. The county was initially considering waiving interest if hardships were demonstrated from our residents, meaning after April 30th, there'd be no penalties or interest imposed on the payment made after April 30th. I believe that there are different proposals being coming out of different committees. I saw a memo this morning from one of the subcommittees that still extends the deadline for the payment, but it does not waive the interest component. It reduces it, I believe, to 0.5% for the first month, and then to 1% until July 15th, and then back to normal. It's either 5% or 7% thereafter. What it does not do, it does not put any toll or suspension on the town's obligation to remit payment to the county. In this case, it's according to our controller, 35 million is our total payment. 60% of that is due pursuant to county law by May 25th. The only law that I saw as of last Thursday did not have any suspension of our obligation to remit 60% of that, which would be 21 million as of May 25th. And we won't be collecting our normal $35 million worth of payments during the month of April. So right now, we don't know what they're going to ultimately pass. As I said, there's different versions of proposals being bantered about. And in any event, I don't believe their public hearing is going to occur probably until April 17th or 19th is what I believe I saw in one of the proposed legislation. So just keep that in mind. I think Maureen may have some additional items that the board, just for informational purposes, need to know, because she's aware how other municipalities work with tax collection that we don't do. So if Maureen is on the call,
I'm here, Frank.
Yeah. So Maureen, if you want to just tell the board and the residents what we do differently than other towns in Westchester vis-a-vis collection of taxes.
Yes, for the purpose of cash flow, this was done many moons ago by some very smart people who set it up this way. For town taxes, we actually collect the first half of the town warrant we bill in January, due by February, and then the second half is due in June. For the county, we bill in April, and then we would pay the 60% to the county in May. The school, September and January. So we always have a cash flow moving along. How we differ from the rest of the county and why this is so important, I guess, to the other residents of this county is that they do not bill like we bill in January. In April, in January and June. In April, right now, they're collecting from all the taxpayers, both the county bill and the first and second half tax of the town. So that's a big bill. So for example, for myself, if my first half of my town was $2,000, it would be due in January. It's already paid, the first half. All I'd be paying now for this bill would be my county tax, which is about the same as the first half town. Then in June, we'd be paying my second half of the town. So you see, if I just was paying my bill right now for county and town, I'd be paying over $7,000. But that's not the case here. I'm only paying my county bill. And that's how it affects each of our residents. Is that clear?
I believe it is, and I think until we can understand the legislation and understand the forgiveness, I would think that in good conscience, any resident that does have the money, we would appreciate them paying their taxes. You showed it's not the same proportion that it is in other municipalities. We have to pay this to the county. They're not forgiving us. So I think as this progresses, but please keep in mind the residents that can pay, we would appreciate you paying your county tax to the town. Mike, do you have any comments?
Fred, can you hear me?
Yes.
It's Mike Giordano. So, yeah, I was just concerned about the collection. Like Maureen said, if we don't get the money, then how can we pay the county whole? One of the things. The other one is that the one they're requesting on one of the resolution was in fact to get letters from people who have hardships, and it's up to myself to distinguish who has a hardship or not. That's practically putting a lot of burden on our tax office, try to figure out who's what, so, for that matter, I wouldn't agree to anything like that. I mean, it doesn't sound, we want to do the best we can for our residents, but, we'll have to wait to see what the county wants to do, I guess.
So this is Lauren. One thing that we did not say, I think, unless I missed it earlier, is that we have about 80 people on the call, and there is a Q&A box on the bottom of their Zoom. We will try to get to people's questions. I'm sure there will be many about these topics, but I believe we're going to have an additional conversation as a board about a process for potentially evaluating needs, right? I saw a notice that went around. There is some guidance from the county on this. Correct?
Yes, Fred Soliano. I think this is going to be a work in progress as each day continues on what the legislator does and what we do as a board. This is going to be work in progress. I don't think there's anything definitive that we could give the residents tonight, but naturally we are working on it.
Village Attorney Jonathan Kraut, the one thing I would say to the board is that obviously we don't even have the option to act upon any potential relief to penalty or payments until the county does. They still have to go through a public comment period. There's been various debates at the county level about what they want actually to do. So to Frank's point earlier, this is really informational purposes. I think we'll keep the board abreast, and obviously there's stuff that you can see happening in the news. And if it solidifies at the county level, I think again, at that point, it'll be a function of time and content, specifically what they put in it. At that time, Maureen McKenzie, our controller, and Mike Giordano, our receiver, can give you additional viewpoints. And then I think the board can take action. We couldn't take action on it anyway until that has been completed.
Thank you, Jonathan. Next on the agenda is the frequency schedule of our meetings during this state of emergency. And next week on the 16th, it was the original scheduled meeting. And at this time, I would suggest penciling in the 23rd of April and the 30th that we could use for work sessions, and if anything else comes up, if everyone's in agreement with that.
Fred, I'm sorry, I just had a question. Fred?
Yes, Mike.
I know we're waiting for the county.
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike Giordano.
Thank you.
Sorry, Jonathan. Mike Giordano, the tax receiver. Mike Giordano, tax receiver. So Fred, I just had a question. No?
Go right ahead.
Yes, we
Oh.
hear you.
We can
Okay.
hear you.
So I'm trying to figure out the date that Frank said something about April 17th, that the county's going to know which way we're going to go regarding this, the deadline for that, April 30th, they're extending it. My question is that I'm getting a lot of calls the last couple of weeks regarding if there's going to be something or not from the public. So do we want to say April 17th we're going to know, or like when do we going to know?
Mike, it's Frank Allegretti here. Since we will not know what the final version of any proposed change to the county tax law is going to be for at least 11, 12, 13 days, we cannot give our residents anything more than the county is considering changes to the county tax law that would affect their county tax payments, and that right now we do not know definitively what that's going to be.
Okay, all right, just want to be clear. That's what I'm giving out. Okay. Thanks.
Fred, it's Frank Gordon.
Yes, Frank.
Thanks, Fred. Do you need a motion for that tentative schedule of work sessions that you mentioned before?
Yes, I would like a motion.
I'd like
Actually, I'd like to,
And I open whether we want to do the Thursdays or a Wednesday. I'll leave it up to the board.
this is Lauren. I'm fine with going back to Thursday, but I would like to make a motion that we have a full public meeting every week. It can be starting next Thursday, every week from now through the end of the quarantine period. I think it's essential that we be available to the public to be having these public conversations. If we have nothing for the agenda, we can always cancel. I cannot imagine we would have a week where we did not. So I'd like to make a motion for weekly meetings starting next Thursday, if that's what you prefer, whatever date you would like,
Well,
starting next
I've
week.
given us,
until the end.
I've given us 3 meetings, the 16th, the 23rd, and the 30th. And
Well,
I
you said
believe
those
that
were
the
work sessions. Are those work sessions or public meetings?
public meetings or work sessions, however we want to deem it as necessary. And then we could deal with it on the 30th to extend as the weeks progress and how this virus progresses. I think we could deal with it at that point. I don't have the May schedule in front of me of meetings, but usually it falls on the first Thursday. So we probably have at least 4 meetings ahead of us.
Andrea Arendo, Deputy Village Attorney. I think we just need to have a better understanding of the difference between the work session and the full public meeting, because as we discussed at the beginning of the meeting, these public meetings need to be fully transcribed word for word. And that costs money and they'll be quite lengthy. Whereas I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Allegretti, Mr. Crowd, and Mr. Cantor, if we do public work sessions where the board is working and still informing the public, that those are not required to be transcribed, and that is not going to require us to expend money?
This is Jonathan Kraut. That's correct. And that does not mean that you still can't telecast them or Zoom them or whatever you want to call this. It's just that if it's held in that manner, it becomes an informational session and we don't have the additional expense. We'll find out meeting by meeting how expensive it is, but generally these types of transcriptions, we'll be spending thousands on them.
Excuse me, Jackie Greer, Town Clerk. I think with the having, oh, sorry, Lauren was just disconnected. So I don't know if you want to, oh, is she back? As far as having a work session, if you're going to do them other than the scheduled town board meetings, I would recommend a work session. They're open to the public. We could still do it the same way. It's just to get an agenda out weekly. I think it will be kind of impossible. And then also you're doing the transcripts of the meeting.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Lauren, you back?
I was completely cut.
It looks like her screen is.
Out of the Zoom.
Lauren? Maybe it's her internet.
Well, it's,
Well,
it's for-
we have a scheduled board meeting for next Thursday, the 16th,
Right.
correct? So, and then we could set aside those dates and we'll decide on the 16th whether it's a work session, which it seems that makes most sense. We can discuss anything we need to discuss and inform our residents.
Right. It would still be having something every week.
Correct.
So it would just be a work session versus a town board meeting, and you'd still have the two town board meetings in between on the 16th and May 7th. And then you'd have the work sessions in between.
So,
Okay.
this is Jonathan Kraut. Fred, do you have that down on a motion and you've settled on it?
No.
No, well, Frank was asking to make a motion, so I'll leave it back to Frank if we make a motion for work sessions on the 23rd and 30th right now.
And this is Jackie. Can we just wait 1 minute? Lauren is texting. She's trying to get back on. She's asking, can we wait a second before you make
Sure.
any motion? She'll be right back on. You had the 23rd and the 30th as work sessions or board meetings, right? Is that the dates you were
Correct.
saying? Okay.
It's Frank Gordon. It seems like, we have the scheduled board meeting for the 16th, and we can make a week-by-week determination whether we want to leave the 23rd or the 30th as work sessions. We can determine that a week in advance. And if we want to turn it into a regular board meeting, we can do so then. Does that sound okay, Fred?
Fine with, that's a great suggestion. I'm in agreement with that.
This is Rich Sinicio. I agree. I agree with Frank that we should decide on the 30th and leave those dates standing.
No, on the 16th, Rich.
I'm sorry, the 16th. Right?
16th. Okay.
Right.
All right, so this is Frank Gordon. I'll make that motion. The motion being that we have a regularly scheduled town board meeting on the 16th of May, and then a work session on the 23rd and the 30th.
April.
Excuse me. Revise that, check that. All those dates are April. And with a week's in advance of each work session, we'll make a determination whether we want it to be a town board meeting or a work session.
Okay, can I have a second
I
on that?
second that motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
This is Mark Heimbuckle. May I ask a question?
sure, Mark.
Given the fact that a lot of towns similar to Harrison are probably going through the same protocol, and there may be a dearth of people that are doing these transcriptions, is a week enough time to advance somebody as to whether they'll be available from the 23rd, say, or the 16th to the 23rd to the 30th? Or do you have to sort of line someone up on a contingency basis?
Jonathan Kraut. Mark, if I understood your question correct, it has to do with transcribing the meetings. That can be done ex post facto. So after the meetings, we can send out the audio recording for transcription, which is why it's important each speaker identifies themselves by name before they begin speaking.
So it's not like a stenographer or something like that. It's just taking the audio and running with it.
Jonathan Kraut again. It is a stenographer, but it's a stenographer who's doing it off of an audio tape.
Very good. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, moving along
I'm
to
sorry, can I
agenda
just
5.
ask for a quick recap because I was cut out of the my internet went down and I didn't hear anything. So could we just quickly recap what you just decided?
Yes, what we,
Decided
whoop, you're in and out.
about-
Again, we have a meeting scheduled for the 16th, and then we have tentatively set up the 23rd and 30th. And at the 16th meeting, we will decide whether we're going to have a work session or a town board meeting on the 23rd. And same thing on the 23rd for the 30th. And we'll deal with,
Okay.
and May 7th is our next scheduled town board meeting after the 30th.
Okay.
Okay. Number 5, request by Director of Community Services Nina Maricini to accept the following donations from the Harrison Food Pantry. $500 from Lauren Leader, $300 from Erin Borzellino, $200 from Daniel and Elizabeth Bernstein, $100 from Courtney Rudnick Bowman, $100 from William and Caitlin Strobel, $50 from Michael J. Basti, $100 from Michael and Melissa Ramito, $500 from Nicholas Polino, $100 from Daniel Woolman, $100 from Robert and Catherine Frederola, $100 from Dolores Eiler and Vance Siller, $100 from M. Lombardi, $50 from Brian and Elizabeth Gibbons, $25 from Joan Goldblatt, $25 from Blake Judelson, $250 from Chad and Kelly Parker, and $400 from the Harrison Association of Teachers. Could I have a motion to accept those donations that I just read?
I motion. This is Rich Denicio.
This is
Second.
Frank Gordon, I second.
Frank Gordon, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. While we're on donations, I was informed tonight that the Southern Westchester Chinese community is donating 1,000 M9 masks to ambulance tomorrow. So we'd like to thank the Westchester Chinese community for donating that to our emergency services.
I'd like to make a motion. I've been muted.
Okay, Lauren makes a motion.
Sorry.
I don't think we have to make a motion for this because we're accepting something. I
No, I
believe
have a
that.
separate motion. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be rushing. I have a sick kid and I'm not going to be able to stay on for this whole
No problem.
meeting. So I apologize for rushing through this. No, I'd like to make a motion and a statement about the Harrison Food Pantry. So first of all, I want to take a second to commend the unbelievable work. I mean, Maricini, the support that she gets from the entire DPW who comes through to help her unload the thousands of pounds of food that she gets on a weekly basis from Feeding Westchester. And to thank all the residents that have stepped up in the last 2 weeks to support the Harrison Food Bank, to state how critical this is right now. And so the motion I'm making is timely and important. I want to make a motion that effective immediately within the next 7 days, that the Harrison Food Pantry, through the support of Maureen, who I understand is in position to put them online, that there is immediately availability of donating, making.
Oops.
coming in and out.
I'm sorry. Can anyone
Donations on-
understand? I missed 90% of that.
I
Yeah,
know.
I think she's having an internet problem. We couldn't.
I just had a vulgar text come on my screen.
You received a vulgar text?
Yeah. I'm
I also, Maureen.
This is Jonathan Kraut, and it's a question first for Rich. Was the text from a participant, or does it appear to be hacked, which is a problem that some municipalities have had?
from Jim to all panelists. I don't want to give you the phrase that he used. From Jim to all panelists.
Okay, I just saw that on my computer also.
You can disconnect it, Jackie, as the host. We're getting Zoom bombed.
Right. So that's what I was asking. That was Lauren Leader speaking.
Yeah.
Maureen, were you receiving it from the participant?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question, Jonathan. It's
Were
Maureen.
you receiving that vulgar text from a participant?
Yes.
Okay. So if you could, let Jackie know which participant she can disconnect them. Now,
Well, it just says Jim.
That's what I got too, Maureen.
It's not a participant. You're getting Zoom bombed. You need to disconnect the entire chat box. That is what is the only way to do it. You have to
Right.
disable it. This has happened. This is because we put up a public link. This is happening. It's all over the papers. This happens all the time. This happened to me in another meeting.
Right.
Yeah. Again, that was Lauren Leader. This is Jonathan Kraut. This is a problem. It was one of the reasons why there was some reluctance to include the public participation link, but there are requirements that particularly apply to having a formal meeting that would not apply to a work session necessarily. And so in any event, hopefully we can remedy that. There have even been instances of pornography being posted on some of these meetings and things like that. Ms. Leader, your microphone is open and there's a lot of feedback through it. The other thing that
No, I'm having a real issue with the connection. I was trying to make a motion. I'd rather dial in if I can.
Yeah, what I was going to suggest is Ms. Leader's microphone and audio track was experiencing difficulty. It kept locking up as well as her video feed. Perhaps you want to dial in with audio only. That might improve it.
Yeah. Is it any better now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, let me try again. If not, Jackie, could you please text me the phone number and I.
See, we lost her again.
I think we lost her again. Maybe you can text her.
And we'll
phone
dial
number, Jackie.
I couldn't hear. I don't know if it would help if whoever's
Stay
not.
on as long as I can.
is
Um,
Rich.
So,
Mute
sorry,
that.
let me start again with the motion that I was trying to make. I'm sorry, I'm on a public Wi-Fi.
Hello?
I texted Mike Pacini, Jackie.
Yes. Do you want him to, and he's on here.
Oh, okay. He just texted me back. He kicked the guy off.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, there's many questions and answers just came through. And it's all same person. Well, a lot of the same people.
Fred, it's Frank Gordon. Could I take a moment to thank all the wonderful residents who've donated to the food pantry?
Sure.
Thank you. Really appreciate everyone in this time of hardship and need being so generous to the food pantry. Food pantry is a wonderful institution in this town and is helping many, many residents during this hard time. So I really appreciate, and I know the town really appreciates, the entire town board appreciates the generous donations that have been made. I had a couple of corrections that came in. Fred, let's see. Someone mentioned that the donation shown from the Romita family was to be in the amount of $1,000. And another correction was the Harrison.
Okay, it's 100 on my sheet. It's
Okay.
1,000.
Yes, that's what I'm told.
Okay.
And also that the Harrison Association of Teachers was 4,000.
4,000.
Guys,
Thank you.
can hear
Thank
me
you
any
so much.
better? Sorry, are you guys able to hear me any better now? This is Lauren.
A little bit. It's still broken up.
I mean, I
Maybe-
need the number so I can call in. The number that I was sent is the public number. I can't speak on that number.
Yeah, Jackie is going to text you the number to speak.
Okay. Are you guys able to hear me clearly enough that I can finish what I was saying earlier?
Yes, and it seems that this person Mike keeps kicking off is coming back. I'm going to ask if he can eliminate that function, because otherwise,
Yeah, Fred, I'm still getting vulgarity.
Yeah, I would just looked at some and it's all over the questions and answers. There's like, out of 120 questions and answers, 106 are from that person.
yeah, I asked Mike if he can disable that function so we can continue. And then Jackie, could you text the number to Lauren
Text which number now?
that she can just call in?
Yeah.
We
let me
haven't calling.
find it.
Okay. Maureen, you will be able to, when you receive these checks from Nina, will be able to verify and correct the amounts being deposited?
Oh, yes, yeah. When we get the checks, we actually make the deposit based on the actual check.
Okay,
We don't go by the resolution.
sure.
So, but here, actually, Maureen, can you answer a question about that? Because I've been getting calls from people whose checks were not deposited, and my understanding was it was because we were waiting for this meeting.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so that was the resolution that I was trying to make before I was cut off. Are people able to hear me?
You have to say your name first before you speak.
Okay, I can't even tell if you can hear me, so I'm doing my best. This is Lauren. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Okay, the resolution that I was trying to make, if I could start again, the motion I was trying to make was to put online the donations to the Harrison Food Pantry. And the way that we would manage it is that we would have an automatic acceptance of those payments, and at every board meeting or as needed, the board will review all of the contributions made. If for any reason there is one that we would want to return, we would return it. But having discussed with the town attorney what the requirements are, I still do not see any reason why we cannot, like every other charitable institution, even if it's semi-governmental, put this online to enable residents to make contributions more easily to the food pantry in certain times. So my resolution is to put online donations to the food pantry. As part of that, we would automatically allow those to be deposited. The board would then review them at every board meeting or as needed. And if for any reason they needed to be, a donation needed to be returned, the board would flag it as such and would return the donation. That is my motion. Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second that motion.
Yeah. If I can be heard on that, just because you're aware of what state law requires before you
Frank
actually
Allegretti.
vote on it. So this is Frank Allegretti, and I had a discussion with Councilwoman Leader and Maureen McKenzie on this back on March 16th. And this was an issue that goes back a few years where the Holiday Project wanted to set up a PayPal as well. And my staff and I looked into this issue. And the way state law is set up, it's section 64 subdivision A. A town board can only act and accept a gift or donation at a publicly held and noticed meeting. And that's why a PayPal or similar based platform cannot be used to accept donations. So we're having meetings every week, every other week. We don't have the capability of usurping state law. The issue over donations has become a problem last year in particular, where we had a $20,000 donation to our police department on a gentleman that, unbeknownst to the town board nor the law department, was on the verge of getting cited by the building department for numerous building code violations, zoning code violations, and the money had to be returned. It was quite embarrassing.
Well, I think we can, it's Frank Gordon. I'd still like to go forward seconding the motion. I think we can go ahead with it, subject to, if it turns out that we can't do it in the end, at least we have the action of the board here to push it forward if we possibly can. So I'll second Ms. Leader's motion.
All those in favor, I know I have to go with advice of counsel. I think with having a meeting once a week, we'll be
No.
able to take the donations. So I don't want to circumvent state law.
I'm sorry, I was cut off again, and I'll just say, this is Lauren. You know what, in a time of emergency, it is just not acceptable to be requiring residents to try to get a physical check. Most people don't even have physical checks. I'm not concerned about somebody holding us accountable on this law in a time of emergency. If at some point we're challenged on this and we have to deal with it, we will. In the meantime, my concern is feeding the people in the town who desperately need it.
Lauren, the comment I'm going to make to you, you were given information from the town controller on the status of the account of the food pantry. And I don't believe that for what the balance is, that to circumvent state law, we can still take the donations and we'll go into the fund, but it's not like we have a zero balance. So
We are going to quickly go through. I think the idea that we have enough money, first of all, the regular monthly contributions to the food pantry declined dramatically very recently because of the loss of a specific donor. We are in an emergency situation. We are going to see additional demand on the food pantry. I do not believe we have enough money in reserves. I don't think Nina feels that way either. I want to do the right thing here and make sure we have the support for our residents in a time of need. So I hear you. I appreciate the advice of counsel. I think in this instance, I'm very comfortable with this decision. I think it sounds like Councilman Gordon is. We should have a vote.
Excuse me, can I just ask a question? It's Maureen McKenzie. Lauren, what is it? I sort of lost in translation there what you're trying to get done. Can you just tell me that, please? You're trying to expedite the checks being deposited? You're letting people not give checks? They want them to do PayPal?
I want the ability for people to make online contributions and not be required to mail a check in order to make a contribution.
Well, how would they do that?
Through whatever platform you decide to use, Maureen, it's up to you.
We don't have such a platform. Our bank accounts are very private. We don't give out the banking information for the town's finances. So I'd be very hesitant. The checks have always worked. People put checks in the mail, and we do, as Fred had said, we do have a sufficient balance right now that I feel can cover us for at least the next month. So by waiting to deposit the checks, I don't think is going to be an issue. The other thing is when people are giving checks, which they have to be deposited, my staff comes in and we have a scanner and they scan them to the bank. So that's my concern.
So I hear you, Maureen, and I'm totally confident that now that we are in 2020, I'm totally confident that we can find an online platform through any number of resources that makes it checks, which is completely out of date and makes it much more difficult for people to make contributions. I've heard from dozens and dozens of residents on this, and I appreciate that we think there's not a problem with the funding for the food bank. I don't share your assessment of that. I think it's very serious, and I want to make sure we have the easy way for our residents to give money to our food bank. I hear you, and I appreciate your feedback, and I'd be happy to work with you on this. But to me, this is an emergency situation, and I think we have to find a solution. If not, I'm going to have to drop off in a minute. I don't know if we want to make a vote. We didn't vote yet.
I have a question for Mr. Allegretti. This is Rich Denicio. Frank, what are you saying? It's totally illegal for us to take a PayPal account or such?
The way New York state law is set up,
Excuse me.
yes, donations and gifts to a municipality have to be done at a regularly noticed board meeting, and this is pursuant to Section 64 Subdivision A of the Town Law of the State of New York, and only then can donations be accepted. It can't be accepted in the platform of a PayPal or something similar, because then the board, you're not actually accepting anything. It's just going right into an account. So the way we're doing
Again.
it, which has been how we've done it for forever, is the list comes in, the checks are held by the controller and they're deposited, and usually with meetings every 2 weeks, there's usually not any sufficient holdup.
And Frank,
Again,
this is
can you
something
explain
had
how,
reviewed
Frank,
before?
can you just explain why it is, if the board, if we get a review of electronic transfers and we review them, why is that not exactly the same thing?
Because
I
you've
just
already
don't buy
accepted
it. I'm sorry.
Okay, but you've already accepted it. If you allow a deposit through PayPal and then you don't review it for a week, 10 days, or 2 weeks, it's already been accepted.
So, Mr. Allegretti, this is something you have reviewed thoroughly before?
Yes, and this was an issue that the Holiday Project, as I said earlier, wanted to be set up a few years ago. And the answer at that time was, unfortunately, no, it has to be by check and accepted at a regular town board meeting.
So let me ask you a question. On the 23rd and the 30th, can we put that into the announcement? And can we accept checks then?
Yes.
Okay.
If you're
But
doing
the
a
issue
board
is
meeting
not
on
whether-
This, until we have more time to review this, Lauren, I mean, it sounds prudent, and every 2 weeks we could get the checks in at this point.
The
It's,
issue is not the frequency of the checks. The
As I
issue is-
said, I reviewed this and I gave you the documentation from the controller's office, what is spent on a yearly basis. I don't want to release everything right now, but we have enough to cover from a month to month, if not more than a year right now. So I would encourage us to follow the law, and we could take the checks in every week since we're having a meeting once a week.
I'm not advocating breaking the law. I'm advocating thinking differently about how we interpret the law in this instance in order to facilitate donations to an urgent service, and how, whether or not we agree on whether or not there's enough money on hand for the food bank is not the issue at hand. The issue at hand is whether or not we can get into the 21st century and
Okay, but
offer
if
an
we,
opportunity for people to make contributions online. And
let's
I do
slow
not
down.
believe
If we
that
have
the-
enough money to cover it, let's deal with it on a week by week basis. There's no, we could check into this later on. I mean, we're not in dire straits with the food pantry. We want everybody to contribute what they can. We're going to help our residents, and I think there is enough time that we don't have to make a rash decision tonight.
It's Frank Gordon. I'd just like to say a couple things. So I think what Councilman Leader is saying is that having this PayPal feature, it doesn't have to be PayPal, online, is going to incentivize people to give. Hardly anyone writes checks anymore unless they're forced to. And then I understand that another feature of PayPal and like services is that you can delay the transfer of the cash from the vendor to your banking account. So it doesn't have to go over the day it comes in. It can go over in a batch mode after 7 days or 10 days. I believe you get to choose the frequency of the batch transfer. So in the meantime, the board could approve the transfer of those donations or disapprove in a very rare instance. So I think the point is a fairly good one, that by using a PayPal type feature, we would get many more donations. It would be much more convenient for residents, especially at this opportune moment in history. Thank you.
Jonathan Kraut, Town Attorney's Office. It sounds like everyone's tracking in the same direction, the benefit of the food pantry and the residents. Obviously, to Mr. Allegretti's point, it has to be done in a fashion that meets the statutory requirements. I'm not sure that Mr. Gordon's suggestion works legally. We can look at it, and I think Fred, the deputy mayor's point is a wise one, that we can probably hold off. I think Richie said that as well. Hold off on that, and we could take it up at the next meeting. In the meantime, one thing you could give consideration to is some form, and I'm going to just make up the name, Friends of Harrison Food Pantry, where you have an organization that's actually set up to take those payments in, and then they can proffer a check from the Friends of Harrison Food Pantry to the town. That might also have an ancillary benefit of those individuals, some of whom want to remain anonymous in terms of acceptance of their donation, as well as the ability for people to make micro donations that fit their budget without feeling that having their name associated with a small donation is doesn't work. But it is important, I think, from an audit perspective and just from a governance standpoint, that whatever we do, I think the town attorney has to opine on it, that it is legal.
I like that idea very much. Do you think it has to be a C3, established as a C3 in order to do that, Jonathan?
Jonathan Kraut again. I don't know the answer. I think we probably should take a look at it and see what opportunities exist and maybe have an offline discussion about it.
Okay, Councilwoman Leader, I'm fine with that. Here's my caveat. This cannot take us months to figure out. Okay, I know this has been raised before. This isn't, I don't agree that this is not urgent. I do believe this is urgent. I think it's going to become more urgent by the day. And I'm willing to wait until next week or the next 2 weeks to figure this out. But we must find a way to facilitate online contributions to our food pantry. I think Frank is right that there is a way to do this that is 100% in compliance with the law by just delaying deposits until we review them at the weekly board meeting through PayPal or other features. I'll be happy to look into that and work with the controller to figure that out. But we have to get this done, and we need to get it done ASAP.
I think we're all in agreement that, Fred Ciliano, we're all in agreement that we want to help the food pantry and residents the best we can, and we will work on this as diligently as possible.
Sounds good.
Okay, the last is old business. I don't know at this point if we want to have Maureen give us an update on the financials, and then after that, we could have leave it open to the other my fellow town board members to speak on behalf of the current situation.
Fred, if I may, mine might be a little lengthy. Maybe they'd like to stay
Okay.
with it. It's Maureen McKenzie. I'm sorry.
Sure, that's fine.
Because I know Lauren might have to go.
Frank, would you like to start, Frank?
Thank you. Why don't we let Lauren start because she may have to cut out on a moment's notice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Lauren Leader?
Yeah, hi, it's Lauren. And guys, I'm so sorry that I've been in and out. This is kind of an unprecedented experience for me, trying to do a town board meeting in a pediatric hospital room with my 4-year-old who just came out of a surgery today. So thank God she's doing fine. And I just wanted to say thank you to all the residents and everyone in the town who have sent me like such lovely notes. It's been a really, really intense couple days. And I just want to say how much I am really appreciating our first responders, everyone who works in the healthcare world. We're so blessed that in Westchester we have these amazing hospitals and amazing healthcare institutions. I think I've never appreciated them more than I did this week. And obviously when things hit close to home, it always gets more personal. But you know, as the deputy mayor has been reading these numbers every night on the calls, you know, it's easy to lose sight when we have these huge numbers, thousands, hundreds, tens of thousands. It sort of becomes a blur. But every single one of those numbers is a person with a family. And I know a lot of us have friends and family who are struggling right now, not just with COVID, but with real financial hardship, with the uncertainty of the current moment. It's been amazing to see the way our friends and neighbors have banded together to support our local businesses. We need to keep that going. This is going to be a long haul and a long haul for everyone. But I also just want to say that we are here to help the residents in any way that they can. There are some limitations, in every way we can. There are some limitations in what we can and can't do, but we're committed. I know all of us are committed to doing everything possible to be there for you. And whatever you need, issues you're facing, I hope you will let us know so we can try to respond in a timely way. And I just wanted to again say thank you. And thanks to everybody who has been pitching in to support one another. This is going to be a long, difficult stretch for a lot of people. And the more we can be there for each other, the better. And again, I just wanted to thank everyone for your understanding and your patience tonight as I was trying to feed a kid who hasn't eaten in like 6 days while I was responding to the meeting. So again,
Thank you. And we wish your daughter well. Frank, would you like to speak now?
Thank you, Fred. It's Frank Gordon, and I want to likewise thank our first responders who have done a terrific job and without rest, around the clock, 24/7, helping residents of this town to prevent the spread of the virus, to help care for people who have come down with the virus. And they've risen to the call, and it's been wonderful. So first and foremost, thank you, and a big shout out to them. Secondly, I'd like to thank all the small businesses in town who have hung through this tough time and are going through tough times themselves. I'm trying to eat out as much as possible by takeout, and I just would ask everyone else, if they can, please help the small businesses in town by directing your business to them at this time. They could really use your help. Finally, well, not finally, I have two more things. We have a resident in town who's a nurse at New Rochelle Hospital, and she is on the front lines. As you know, that was one of the first places to come down with the virus in big numbers. And she has placed a call out for personal protective equipment, meaning masks, goggles, and nitride gloves. She has a bin out in front of her house. She lives at 599 Harrison Avenue. That's 599 Harrison Avenue. If you can donate any personal protective equipment, again, masks, goggles, and nitride gloves, she would really appreciate it. The hospital is running short, as all hospitals are. Mamaroneck did a similar drive and got over 100 N95 masks for White Plains Hospital. So I think every little bit helps, and then I would appreciate it if you could help this resident with her fine work. Finally, to step away from the coronavirus, I would just encourage everyone to fill out their 2020 census, available online. I think Fred probably sees the numbers of how Harrison is doing compared to other towns in the county. And I hope we can get right up there to the top, because every person, when we don't reply to the census, we lose out on funding. So it's so important that everyone respond to the census. Thank you very much. And thank you, Fred.
Thank you, Frank. Yes, and I echo what Frank said in regards to the census. I really haven't seen the numbers, but I've been told we're on the low response side right now. And it really only takes probably less than 4 minutes to complete online, or as I had mentioned in my robocalls, and it's on, Jackie has it on the website, you can do it over the telephone. So I think a lot of people have been preoccupied, but I think the more we get the message out, Harrison will catch up to where it should be. But thank you, Frank. Rich, Denisia, would you like to make a few comments? Thank you.
Yes, Fred, thank you. First and foremost, Lauren, I wish your daughter well and yourself, and hope you come home soon. I'd like to thank the police, our fire department, our EMS, our DPW, and the employees of our town. I feel we are doing an unbelievable job. I'm really proud of everyone. Everyone's cooperating with each other. It's nice to see. And the first responders are doing a wonderful job. The only thing I like to say is, unfortunately, I've been seeing a lot of latex gloves on the ground, and you know, it's not healthy for everyone. I think we need to dispose of them properly. Speaking with the DPW, I hear people are recycling them. I don't believe that's a good idea. Just, you know, try to watch out for our neighbors, ourselves, keep our distances, and we'll get through this together. I thank everyone from the bottom of my heart. I really mean that. Our town is really, I'm proud of it. I'm proud of everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. You know, maybe there's a chance, Frank, with the masks that I mentioned that are being donated to our EMS service can maybe help the nurse out a little bit. So we will mention that to them. On the other hand, too, I know I mentioned it and it's been out on Facebook at, I believe on Friday night at 7 o'clock. Everyone goes out to their stoop and kind of applauds or honk their horns in their driveway. And I'd like to see that happen maybe each Friday. We can decide on a time, whether it's 7 o'clock or 7:30, whatever my fellow board members feel. And it's something that Jackie can post, and we can show our support to our DPW, all the town employees, our healthcare workers, our police officers, and our firefighters. So if my fellow board members are in agreement with that, I'd like to make a motion that we do post that on our town website and ask all our residents to participate.
It's Frank Gordon. I'll second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Fred, Tony Robinson, if I may.
Sure, Tony.
I also would just like to take a moment to thank the men and women of my department. They are doing yeoman's work with 50% staff. The garbage collection and recycle is condensed from 4-day collection to 2. It's a massive undertaking. I'd like to thank the residents for cooperating with this effort. We're trying to make sure that our men have limited exposure to this virus. And we've done that by limiting the amount of days that they come to work. I know it's an inconvenience to the residents, but they've stepped up big time, and I can't thank them enough. And I would like to speak to Richie's comment about the gloves. In no way should those things be recycled. Number one, they're potentially contaminated, which then puts not only my workers, but the whole waste stream in some degree of peril. Secondly, they're not a recyclable item. They can't be processed at the plant. It would be a contaminant to the load just on the physical nature of the gloves. So those are strictly garbage. They should be disposed of in the regular garbage. And again, thank you all, the board, for giving me the support that I need to get through this. You've all been good. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony. I know it's been a difficult week for our highway department. And Tony, now that you mentioned it, the tribute that they gave Tucker was very touching. I saw a few Facebook of the parade of the trucks and everything to honor their fellow worker. And my hat is off to all our workers.
Tucker was a good man, and it's a big loss for the department. We took that to heart, and we wanted to do something for him because we could not be at the service itself for obvious reasons. And I'd like to thank Chris Park for organizing that. He did a great job with, we spoke about it several times about how we would stage it, and the send-off was amazing. I think it was very moving. I know the funeral director even made mention of how moved he was. So all in all, it was a great send-off, and I hope we give comfort to the family.
Well done.
Yes. Especially family that is within the Harrison Town employee family, and our hearts go out to them all. Thank you. On the village board meeting, it's pretty much the same. I don't know if we have to open up or close the town board meeting and open up the village board meeting and carry anything over. And then we could have Maureen speak to the finances, and then any executive session items that you want to bring up.
Fred, may I just make a very basic comment about preventing the spread of disease? It's Frank Gordon.
Sure.
And I want to do that because I have such a tough time complying myself. And that is to prevent the spread of the disease, please wash your hands as much as possible and don't touch your face. Those are more difficult than I realized, and I find myself breaking them almost every day. But the friendly reminder to everyone, please take those 2 basic steps, and that will go a long way to prevent spreading of the disease. Thank you.
Thank you. Jackie, a little help. Do we ask for items for executive session under the town and then move on to the
Yeah,
vote?
I mean, I'm thinking if you don't have any items or anything for the village, I don't know if you need to open it. I don't know if
Okay.
Frank or one of the attorneys has.
No, it's Frank Allegretti here. I don't believe anything that you did in the town needs to be also adopted in the village. I know the village agenda mirrored the town agenda. So if there's nothing in particular in connection with the village, you could just open and close with a simple motion.
Okay.
Okay, so you could see if there's any items for executive session in the town.
Does anyone have any items for executive session at this point? No? So I'll make a motion that we close the town board meeting.
Second?
Second, Rich, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Do we need to do a roll call for the village board meeting, or can we just make a motion to open and close it, Jack?
I think we could make a motion to open and close it. That's what Frank had just said, Allegretti.
Okay. I'm sorry. So could I have a motion to open the town board meeting? I mean, the village board meeting, I'm sorry.
Frank Gordon, so moved.
Second,
Rich?
Rich Zenizio, second.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Could I have a motion to close the village board meeting?
Motion to close the village board meeting.
Second.
Second, Frank Gordon. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. At this time, I think it would be great if Maureen can take the microphone and give us a little update on our finances. I want to thank Maureen for working digitally. Yeah, I'm tongue-tied tonight. But she's done a great job over the last week and a half and over the weekend. And I appreciate all her hard work. And this will give us a rough idea tonight after she finishes speaking where we are, where we're going to have to keep an eye on things and really project out. So Maureen, I'll leave the screen to you.
Maureen McKenzie. Thank you, Fred. It was my pleasure to do this. Well, I just love it. So I really do. A lot of people don't like numbers, but I love them. So thank you for that. Can everyone see my sheet here? I shared? Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, it's a worksheet, and I'm going to go over first the revenue, the expenditures, the tax information to date, and then the 2019 year-end results. As you know, this is really a work in process. It's very fluid, the situation. I worked with all the department heads, whoever this revenue lands under, and we did a very in-depth, had very in-depth discussions about it. And so I think what I'd like to do is we're going to give you this report, and probably within the next, by the end of April, I'll be giving you another updated report as we know more numbers. The first line up is the sales tax revenue with a budget of 6.2 million. The first quarter, which includes January through March, was very robust. I've been in contact with the county, and this is where we didn't receive the revenue yet, but this is where we're going to be at for the first quarter, about $1 million, almost, being $1,356,000. If I go down here, so for the first quarter, it was about a 25% increase over the 2019 revenue. For the second quarter, which runs from April to June, I'm estimating a 25% decrease from the 2019 revenue. Third quarter, which runs from July to September, I'm estimating a 0 increase. It's going to remain flat over last year. And for October to December, based on what we see now, I'm estimating a 10% increase over 2019 revenue. So the county is not being as conservative as I am. For example, for the third quarter, where I have a 0% increase, they're estimating somewhere around, I think, 10 to 15. And for the last quarter, they're estimating somewhere between 15 and 18% increase. So as we move forward in time, the next few months, I'll have a better picture. I'll be able to work the numbers, maybe change those percentages, and maybe these numbers will change. I know they're going to change. So for that line, for the shortfall amount that I'm estimating for the budget year 2020 would be $1.2 million. The mortgage tax aid line, right now, we're going to be receiving just about $705,000. The way the mortgage tax aid works, we already have months in that end in March. So I know I get a monthly report, so that $705,000 is within a $50,000 mark. For now going forward for April through September, what I did here is I went back to 2007, 8, 9, and I actually looked at the results as to what the decrease was, and the decrease came in 2009. So what I did was I took the numbers from 8 and 9 and saw what the decrease was in the mortgage tax aid for those months, and I applied them to these months here compared to the same time last year. So I had 20% decrease in April, 50 in May, 75 in June, 75 in July, 50 and 50 in August and September. So based on that, I'm estimating that the amount that we're going to be receiving for this calendar year will be $1,010,000, with a shortfall of $170,000, which I think is very good because we, as I said, we have most of the money in half of the year already. State revenue sharing, I expect to remain the same. So we weren't advised by the state of any cuts. So I'm going to say that there's not going to be any shortfall there. Building permit line, the first months have been phenomenal. We have almost $2 million in that line. I did chat with Susanna Rocco, and I did ask if they had seen any people calling for, to get any refunds or whatever, but absolutely not. What they're actually saying is people can't wait to move forward. So I don't think that line will be affected. And we also have one large company here that's starting on some big renovations, and there's going to be, their building fee is going to be somewhere around $300,000. So that's estimated into my my year-end number. I do believe we're going to take in a little more than budget, but right now I'm being very conservative and saying we're going to make budget. We go down to the fines and forfeitures. This is where we're going to have a problem. I had an in-depth conversation with our court clerk, Jackie Ricciardi, and her assistant, Sean O'Connell, and what these are the estimates they came up with. The court is going to be closed for 45 days. There's going to be no traffic until June or July. There'll be criminal on twice a week starting May, June, part of July, and there'll be no traffic court until August. So that said, this is where we're going to have a problem. The budget is $1,910,000. To date, we only have 1 month of revenue in so far of $131,299. I need $1.8 million almost to make budget. Jackie's estimating that we're probably just going to take in about $845,000 for the year. So we're going to have over $1 million in the shortfall for that revenue. Park and rec charges. Nobody knows. Jerry and I chatted, and what I'm basing this on is that there's not going to be any camp just for now. And as we move forward, these numbers will change if camp and the pool's open. These expenditure revenue numbers will change, and also the expenditure numbers when we get to the other page. So we're estimating about a $500,000 shortfall if there's no camp and no pools. Interest and penalties on real property taxes. Right now we have almost $178,000 in the revenue line. I need another $472 for the year. We really don't know what's going to happen. As we move forward, we'll see what penalties are coming in. But if people are not paying their taxes, we're not getting the penalties either. So I'm estimating at this time a shortfall of about $200,000. Now this utilities line, tax line, this is the utility taxes we get. They come in from Con Edison, from everybody's Con Ed bill, telephone, utilities. We really have 1 month in, and it's an unknown. So with all the buildings being shut, I don't know if we're going to receive the high revenue, but also people are working from home. So it may, and they're using their telephones. So maybe this 327.5 that I have here might be a high number, but it's very conservative. Cable TV is just about flat. I'm thinking that people are home, so we might get some additional revenue as we move through. The hotel tax is, we're going to take a big hit on that. The hotel tax quarters run a little differently than everything else. The first quarter runs from February to April. So I estimated that we're really going to have about a 75% decrease over from 2019 because all the hotels were closed, beginning of March. So we're not going to get anything for March and April. May to July, I said 75% decrease, the same thing. A little uptick in August to October if things change, maybe only a 50% decrease. And then November to January, possibly a 25% decrease. So that said, looking at those percentages, I'm estimating a $300,000 shortfall at the end of the year. Interest and earnings is just in the two major funds. We have a budget of about $350,000. We've already received $152,000. And in January, I actually locked in a $10 million CD at 2%, where we're going to make another $150 on. So we're going to do pretty well. I'm saying a $30,000 shortfall, but I really think that we're going to make budget and a little beyond. We'll know more next month. Does anybody have any questions before I move to the expenditure side? And I just want to let the board know that right after this, and Jackie, I'll be sending out these sheets to you via email, so you'll all have them if you want to call me and we can chat personally about them. Okay, so when we get to the expenditure side, of course, every time something with overtime, we're going to have a big effect. The biggest, I feel, is going to be probably for the police department. I did speak with Captain Kuro, and we had an in-depth conversation about where we think we're going. It's very hard to tell. You don't know what cases are going to come up. And what I did was I took what we had to date, January, February, March actual, and then as from April to December, he told me I probably could use last year's numbers. So that's what I did. And we're looking like we might have a shortfall, be over budget there on the expenditure line by about $265,000. The other good thing is we had a great winter. So highway overtime for the snow, right now, we only spent $29,000. I spoke to Commissioner Robinson, and we both agreed that if we did have a couple storms in November, December, that $100,000 would cover the overtime. So right then we're going to have a savings in that line of $121,000, give or take. The other savings, because we had such a great winter, is the highway, the salt line, where we budget $381,000. We have plenty of salt uptown, downtown right now, and we spent almost $223,000. So we're expecting that even if we have to get a little more salt for the end of the year, we'd still only spend about $300,000, so we'd have some savings there of about $81,000. The salaries that we have about 27 vacant positions within the budget. Those salaries, we're not going to be hiring right now, so that makes up for the whole year, it's about $535,000 in a savings. Now, we mentioned on the other side about the revenue if we don't have the camps. Well, if we don't have the camps, so that means that we don't have to pay the counselors, and if the pools aren't open, we don't have to pay the lifeguards. So right now, we've only spent about $20,000 in those lines. We're estimating, Jerry and I had a good conversation, he estimates that maybe the spend will be $100,000. Now, this is if we don't have the camps, we don't open the pools. So there's a savings of about $475,000. The recreation special service programs also was affected. Jerry feels that maybe half the budget will be spent if things keep going as they are. So we'd have a savings of half the budget of $70,000. You then have recreation, moving, and transportation. These are for the buses that take the kids where they go for the programs with the camp. If we don't have it, we're going to have a savings of about $47,000. Now we're on to our gasoline and diesel lines with the price dropping every day. To date, we've spent about $55,000. I'm estimating $200,000 possibly. Well, that number's going to change, I'm sure, probably go down. So about $180,000 in savings in that line. The last big one is workers' comp with $1.8 million as budget. To date, up through February, it's about $225,000. We still have to pay the people that are on comp. Every month there's this steady number, but I'm still estimating that based on what I see, that maybe it'll be about $1.6 million, and we'll see some savings a little north of $200,000. I'm going to go to the next tab, which is going to tell me right here, it's the tax information. As I told you, we have a town tax levy, a county, and a school. So town tax levy for 2020 is 56 million. And then we received to date revenue of about 28 million. Amount yet to be received is 27 million. And that's the amount that'll be billed to the taxpayers in June. The county levy is what we just actually mailed out, 35 million. We received 2.7 so far. Amount to be received is north of 32 million. The school tax levy, that's the 1920 levy. So that was done September and January. So it was 105, received 103. We still haven't collected 108. The last and final tab is what we call unassigned fund balance that can be used to help us offset some of these if we do have a deficit. And we have this, and I'm very thankful that the board had done such conservative budgeting, and over the years that we were able to take this rainy day fund and get it to where it is. So at the end of 2019, we have almost $18 million that can carry the taxpayers in the town of Harrison through this terrible, terrible time. And I think that's a positive note to end on. And I just, if anybody has any questions for me, please do now.
Thank you, Maureen. I think once you send it out, everybody will have a chance to digest it and give you a call. But thank you for all your hard work. And
perfect.
You know, I do want to comment. We were criticized, I think, through the town controller's office or the state controller's office about the rainy day fund, and thank God that we have this rainy day fund right now.
Thank God, that's right.
I guess we're approaching the end of our first video teleconference meeting. I guess we've survived. I don't know.
I just wanted to tell you, I went through some of the questions. There was 2 before, I guess it was hacked, and then all the other, everything else I saw was, they're terrible. But the first 2 questions at the beginning, one was, why are there no meetings till the 23rd? And that's not correct, because we do have a meeting next week on the 16th. So whoever wrote that, just so they know. And then there was another question for Mark Heinbockel. I don't know if he's still on now.
He is.
Okay. They were asking, will grievance day be as scheduled?
This is Mark Heinbockel. The answer is at the moment, yes. Those are statutory dates. There's a lot of law with reference to whether we can change dates or not. There have been several case studies done on this. So assuming that the worst of the coronavirus has expired, we think we have breathing room from there. And so we do anticipate the grievance process to, number one, be very robust, but we also do expect it to go off from the 1st of June through the 3rd Tuesday in June. And I did see that comment in the Q&A, and that was from a former Board of Assessment Review member.
Okay.
Okay, and if I missed any other questions that people asked, I'm sorry, but because it was hacked, there was 150 messages in there that were hard to get through, so.
Great. I guess end the meeting. I appreciate everybody's hard work. I appreciate all the departments that are on this call tonight. we didn't have to ask you any questions, but I appreciate all the hard work that everyone's doing in the townhouse, all the support each department is giving each department, all the support you have been giving me during this time. And I want to thank everyone. I want to commend the citizens of Harrison. This is a tough time, and we're a tough town, and we'll get through it. So with that, I'd like to take a motion to end the town board meeting.
I'll make that motion. And Fred, I want to thank you for all the hard work you're putting in. It's yeoman's work, and we really appreciate it during this difficult time. So I'll make that motion to close the town board meeting.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Jonathan Crowd, have a nice evening. Thank you.
You too.
Are you doing an executive session?
There were no items for executive.
Oh, okay, good.
So with that, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Lauren, I hope your daughter does well, and prayers for everyone. Thank you.
Stay safe.
Good night.
Good night, Nicole.
Admit and leave meeting. I hit it.